Call me a momentum the way I boosted to you. Hey everybody, what's poppin'? It's your boy Fidel here, coming at you today on the Game Skates to tell you and talk about this new conversation that's actually sparked recently about boost versus momentum. Now, the reason this conversation's come up a lot is because, Kishimoto's been talking a lot about how he wants to integrate, more momentum-based platforming and sort of go back to the adventure roots. And we're seeing, a lot of people that grew up with boost talk about how, they preferred the boost. And actually, I was fighting about this with one of my good friends Johnny on stream, where we were talking about how what would the next Sonic Frontiers game look like. Would it have no boost and purely focus on momentum? Would it be a bit of big support? So I figured I'd just sit down quickly, just talk about what I think about it. What are my favorite elements about boost versus my favorite elements about momentum, and what could which one works better and how maybe they could both live. I don't know, let's talk about it. So let's talk about boost really quick. Now when it comes to boost, right, this has been a formula that's been around for about 15 years now. You got to keep in mind, right, a lot of people have now grown up with the boost formula. That's basically what Sonic is to them. They grew up with Sonic Unleashed, they grew up with Sonic Colors, Sonic, what's it called? Sonic Generation, Sonic Forces, and now Frontiers. Obviously, Frontiers is a weird thing, and we'll get to that. But yeah, no, for a lot of people, the identity of Sonic has been the boost formula, and it's been, it's very different from what a lot of us grew up with. It's basically the second style of Sonic, as Kishimoto likes to say it. He says there's three styles. He says there's adventure, boost, and now what Frontiers is doing. But yeah, with the boost formula, it's something that has, been very, it's in general, it's a very weird formula where it's a lot of its showcase has done a good job of showing Sonic speed, right? The idea of, you hold this boost button, right, to make Sonic go ultra fast, super fast, but still controlled, and you can still, navigate a bit of his movements. But a lot of the levels are designed around like a linear path with some open areas, some quick steps and all that. But for the most part, it's basically a means to get Sonic going ultra fast, and you get these cool dynamic camera angles, and for a lot of times, it encourages, to fight enemies so you can build this boost meter. So in a lot of ways, the boost is super fun, right, and it allows you to traverse really quickly, right? But it's definitely limiting, right? It makes it so that you can sort of brainlessly play a lot of times. Now, obviously, there's levels that work better with it than others, right? But for the most part, it is sort of the boost to win idea. And I feel like that is very lackluster showed in a game like Sonic Forces, right? Like, look at Sonic Forces. You could hold that boost button for most of a level and be completely fine. Now, obviously, we have beautiful examples like it's Sonic Unleashed of how the boost can work, but a lot of the times, the boost can be a little problematic in a ways if you can't really control Sonic correctly, or that you are just, boosting through an environment without thinking about it or appreciating it. But in a lot of ways, they were able to craft these really long levels where you felt like you would go through a journey with the boost, and I feel like that's why in a lot of ways it worked. And that's why I liked seeing it in Sonic Frontiers. Seeing it in this open environment where you can boost through and feel like you're really Sonic flowing through the wind, going through all the flowers and the grasslands and the deserts and all that with the boost is awesome, right? But the issues of it definitely start to present themselves when you're in an open environment. So for example, right, Sonic is stuck to the ground for some reason in that game, right? It's very rare that you can fly off something when you boost, and when you do, it's like he's tripping off a rock or something. It looks fucking weird. But for the most part, you're stuck to environments, which makes it so that you don't really carry any of that boost anywhere. It's just a means to go super fast, but it doesn't feel like, it can really lead up to anything. And the only time it does is when you do that rail grind technique where you can like go on a rail grind boost and then like jump off and you get some big airtime, and that's like a cool showcase of that. But yeah, I feel like when it comes to the open zone environment, that's when you start to see a bit of the boost formulas, flaws when it comes to an open environment. Is it just feels like here's how I get to point A to B faster, instead of like here's this thrill ride I'm using the boost for, right? And it shows a bit more of its flaws in that sense, right? But again, I do love the boost. Like, I do love going super fast. I do love being in a fight and using the boost with the the side loop in order to go through it faster and create better, tactics and stuff. Like, there's a lot of cool ways you can integrate into that fight, but in a lot of ways it feels like hey, here's how I get to point A to B faster, which in a lot of ways is Sonic. Sonic is a fast character, so it does a good job. But yeah, I understand what a lot of people mean when they say, that it can feel like it is just like a go fast button as opposed to a hey, like, let's actually control and find ways to make Sonic utilize his environment as you would do using something like momentum. Now let's talk about momentum. Now obviously momentum is something that, you know, the series has had in a lot of the games, whether it's 2D or 3D. I mean, this philosophy goes back, you know, to the original games where, you know, you'd go down a half pipe, you gain speed, you go back to the other one, you go back to it, and you gain speed, and you have momentum, right? Momentum based platforming. And then we start to see that in the adventure games, right, where Sonic, you know, you would do a jump, you would do the second jump to push him forward, and Sonic would, you know, have a boost of energy. You'd get off a grind rail and he'd be fast. You'd do the spin dash in order to gain, you know, momentum and speed, right? And you'd go through these levels that were a little bigger, right, but Sonic's speed and movement were a little more controlled in how he moved, right? And that applied to a lot of, you know, his friends and everything, right? The momentum of your movement is what was carrying you around, and it felt like you were rewarded a lot of times for just moving around in the world in a way that emphasized Sonic's speed. You know, in City Escape, if you did, you know, a spin dash into a jump, you could jump through massive parts of the level, right? Or even what's called in Sonic Adventure 1, when you had the open areas, right? Like you could just, you know, zip through one space to another through spin dashing or running through or jumping down a hill. Like there was a lot of cool ways momentum could be carried, but I feel like in a lot of ways, because momentum was in a lot of old games, we haven't really seen it properly showcased. I feel like I've yet to see a Sonic game, which I'd love to see, where I can feel really rewarded for playing with the environment, you know, make it so that and I feel like that's actually showcased mostly in the 2D games. And like in a lot of the 2D games, you have the philosophy of the 3 paths of Sonic, right? The top path, sort of middle path, and the bottom path. And I feel like when you were using the momentum in the environment, you were able to go to these top paths, and they were emphasized in the 2D games. And again, you got a bit of that in SA 1 and 2, but I feel like this is where Frontiers, you know, lacks in that and could use that, because Frontiers is a game where if you have momentum in a game like Frontiers, there's still not much you can do in that, because the environment is really designed around you be able to access everything, right? Whereas I feel like if Frontiers was designed, you know, with boost in mind, well, sorry, with momentum in mind, is that you could create maybe some different areas you could only access through upgrading Sonic, right? And being able, okay, what if I upgrade this first, you know, I get this ability or gain some more speed so that, you know, maybe my spin dash is crazier, I can go through this crazy loop and finally get to that other spot I've been wanting to, you know, make Sonic earn accessing different locations, as opposed to being basically able to go anywhere at any time, because you basically have Sonic's entire moveset and speed giving to you from the start, you know. And even this, the speed button in Sonic Frontiers doesn't really do much for me. I mean, you could level up your speed 99 times, and I still don't know how I felt when I was level 1 versus level 99, you know. And I feel like if they base things around momentum and like, you know, upgrading how much momentum you get, upgrading stuff, you know, like how far you go with a spin dash, how powerful a spin dash could be, you could really emphasize that. And even, you know, bring back the spin dash as an emphasized ability as opposed to the boost button, you know. Maybe instead of the boost button, you hold R2, Sonic starts to rev it up, and then you can go to spinning, because I think the spin dash is one of the coolest things, you know, Sonic has ever had and ever will have, but you only ever want to use it in the 2D games or in the original adventure games. Whereas now, I feel like with the open zone, this is the best place for you to bring that back and emphasize it, and again, make you feel like that Sonic CD intro, because that's ultimately the dream, right? To have a game where Sonic is flexing, moving through the environment with momentum that he's gaining. You know, you can still have the springs and the little boost pads on the ground, but make it so that like I'm going down a hill and I start to roll, and then I can do a big jump into another place. Like there's a lot of cool stuff you can do there. But again, another match made in heaven would be if you can match both, right? Like give Sonic the fucking boost, screw it, right? And make it so that if I boost and I go into a spin dash and I jump off a cliff, that I can go crazy high, right? Do some cool tricks in the air, boost sideways, right? Go down a grind rail, get off of it, keep that momentum rolling down a hill. Like it would be so cool if they could build this fusioned environment, you know, of, you know, momentum and boost, because I don't think they have to be, you know, separated from each other. In fact, I think if they both work together, you could get one of the craziest Sonic games ever. And I think, again, they'd have to retweak how the boost works. They'd have to retweak how momentum works, and again, make it so that you could upgrade it so that maybe you could get to higher heights, and, you know, upgrade how the spin dash works and how the actual boost meter works. But I feel like you could make something crazy and really beloved if you work on both. But yeah, like I said, they both have their W's and their losses. You know, without the when you go back to adventure style games, a lot of those environments are, you know, they are fun levels to go through, but they never really feel as crazy thrilling as a boost level does, because a boost level at its peak is incredible. Like, you don't get something like a rooftop run in the original adventure games, right? But at the same time, you lack something special when you learn an environment and, you know, methodically go through it as Sonic with some speed but still some control, right? So it's definitely a debate, and I understand where people are coming from. But yeah, let me know what you guys want to see most. Do you want a fusion of the both? Are you happy with what's got the next game? Would you like if Sonic Frontiers 2 is just momentum based? In fact, Kishimoto was talking about how we might see how they're going to be incorporating momentum in these games as soon as the third update in the game. So I'm very excited to see what they're going to be doing with Sonic Frontiers, what's going to be in the future of Sonic's movement style. So thank you all for watching. Let me know what you all think, and peace out.